Delighted to be joined by former Limerick hurler Paul Browne this morning. Paul, how are you keeping?
Good lads, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Not to bother. I
Good,
suppose
Paul, how are you?
when Matt got in touch with you last Wednesday or Thursday, did you think there'd be a Munster final to look forward to?
I thought Matt would be asking me questions about why maybe we were finished third, or we might have maybe even worse case scenario, But no, geez, it's great to be looking forward to the 2 weeks. There's a buzz already around the place. You can feel it, especially when it's Clare you're facing. So that rivalry is well and truly alive. I think it's probably the biggest or most anticipated one in the GA at the moment. So it's great to have another cut at it.
Yeah, I suppose for anyone that was in a bubble over the weekend, Limerick beat Cork, and one of the best games I've ever been to. And Waterford got the job done over Tipperary and Thurles, which means it's Limerick and Clare, as you mentioned, in the Munster final again. But the day itself, Paul, and Munster hurling, you just couldn't write scripts like this.
No, look, it's I'm definitely not going to get into a Munster, Leinster thing or anything like that, or hurling really. It's just hurling in general is great, right? And we need to appreciate it. I just don't think we fully appreciate how special the Munster Championship is. Everyone says it, but to really take a step back. Even other games, I was lucky enough to get down to Cork and Tip this year to have a look at it, as well. And an incredible game, just the atmosphere, the occasion, there's people flooding in from everywhere, and there are different counties and cars and roads full and stuff like that coming in. It's really, really special thing we have. And look, long may it continue. I think as long as Munster hurling is driving, if anyway, the provincial discussion is not really up for much discussion, I would say, especially from a hurling point of view. It's just an incredible thing to be involved in, be it as a supporter or lucky enough for myself to be a player and playing in it. It was just incredible, really, really special times.
Yeah, and I suppose you're a player, and it's not too long since we saw you out there, and you would have played with a lot of those players. Did you anticipate that performance coming?
Look, it's in them. They're just the character of these fellas is the most impressive thing I think about them. There's never a moment too big, or there's never they never fade away from the challenge. To be honest with you, it was just a matter of who was going to drive it on Sunday gone, as opposed to was it going to happen. And I just very impressed with Dan Morrissey and Dara O'Donovan. Dara. The about William, I don't know who've been underrated, and stuff like that. But Dara, I think, is one of the most underrated hurlers we've ever produced. It just doesn't seem like he gets the credit he deserves most of the time. He is just he can do it either way. He's tough, he's physical, and he can hurl the lights out as well. And I was delighted to see him having a couple of pops from long range and firing the ball over the bar. The other day as well. It's just a real bow. He has the strength. He has his bow as well. So those players were always going to stand up. Burnsy's been immense, for the last number of years as well. Always a man for the big occasion. It's just great to see the lads driving on. And then we had a couple of flashes from other lads coming back again. 𝘕𝘰𝘬𝘪𝘢𝘵, superb second half, really stood up to it when it was needed. Tom Morrissey, as usual, brilliant, and Aaron again got the right supply and delivery and really went to town in Cork.
Yeah, and, I just go back to midfielders for a minute, because that's obviously the position you excelled in. And Dara would have been young coming into the panel when you were there, and eventually takes over from you, and Will comes in then. But they're a brilliant mix of players, and they definitely do go under the radar. As you said, William probably gets a bit more credit, but I don't think either of them is rated as they should be in terms of the national landscape, because there is no better duo, and I don't think anyone really gets close to the two of them.
Yeah, no, they don't. Very rarely. I think even at times there they might get turned over for a couple of minutes, in a game, and next thing all of a sudden the talk is all the Limerick midfield weren't firing or whatever like that. But I'm yet to see a group get a bit better from 70 minutes, and even if they break even or whatever, the next time they play, the boys have their homework done, and they definitely won't be breaking even the second day in a row, if they get to play the same team. So they're a great duo. William is just what a workhorse in the middle of the field. He's just a pleasure to have in your team. He's a fella you'd love to have in your team. You take him anywhere with you if it was a transfer market, but to come up against him is a nightmare, and just he'd be chasing you down there, and you just hear his breath and his footsteps coming first, and then you're going to get swallowed up by two huge arms. He's a massive man. And just, I suppose if I was to say, the thing about William especially is that even when the game is going against Limerick, he's always there. He's always there about fighting and trying to pull him back into it, And I suppose even when there's a lull or a dull period in the game for Limerick, William is always the fellow who's kind of thereabouts in the rucks and tackles and trying to make something happen or trying to spark it into life, And I suppose from looking at the game the weekend gone, I think Cork probably go into that lull period, and maybe if they had a 𝘕𝘰𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝑀 would have known who I think they would be dragged out of those quicker, I think they're probably missing a player like him. And if they had maybe one of him, I'd say they might be even a different team,
Yeah, I think the thing with William is any sort of highlights clip, he's always in the background, either on the ball or just out of shot. Like he's everywhere. And then Dara, as you said, with the 3 points, so important. But I suppose outside that, in the middle eight, you mentioned Burnsy and Kyle was brilliant, and so was Declan, and then the half forward line. That's really been the central point for Limerick, and it has been a bit off some players this year, but that middle eight really thundered into the game and were a telling difference in the end.
Yeah, I think teams have come with different stuff as well, Jack. They've withdrawn players, they've withdrawn a full forward line out into the middle eight as well, like to try and combat and have extra men there, and I suppose they're sometimes I think some teams drop their half back line and don't engage, but we've seen teams now pushing their half back line and engaging the half forwards a bit closer as well, and I suppose coming with that, then I suppose probably the ball speed and the ball to hand was probably a small bit off for a couple of games, but that seems to have come better now, or has definitely improved. So I think all those things kind of factor into it. But that middle eight, teams obviously have targeted it as an area they're going to have to go at Limerick if they want to win the game. So I mean, every time that middle eight go out in the field, they're facing a team who has targeted, focused on them, and worked in that area as regards how they're going to break them down and stop them. And you can't be at 100% all the time. So even a small bit off, it looks like they're miles off, but that's not the case. The margins at this level are absolutely minute. And what you're noticing more and more about hurling now is that they're turning on such fine moments in a game, like we blocked down or a hook or a missed tackle or a fumble, stuff like that. And I think games are switching on those now because teams are so quick to punish you on the break and on the counter. Especially when the ball is turned around the middle third, you can see teams have been working on turnover, how fast can we get the ball into our full forward line and maybe work a goal, and Limerick did that very well the other day, got 3, could have had more, but it was by a really quick ball into the lads in the transition phase.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned goals there because, in the grand scheme of things, it was 28 scores, 31 in Cork's favour, but Limerick got the goals, as you said, and Limerick probably been guilty of shooting from further out and just racking up a high tally of points, but it's good that in a day in the cauldron, the Gaelic grounds, that they were able to just actually turn some of them chances into goals. Now they did butcher a couple of them, but to score 3 goals and 25 points in any game, we should be good enough.
Yeah, it should. And look, I'm you win by a point, everything is okay. You lose by a point, it's the end of the world. I mean, Cork were very close to winning that game the other day. 130. If you told them before the game scored 130, they'd have thought they'd have won the game and gone home. And if you told Limerick before the game that they conceded 130, they'd probably have said they might have lost the game as well, So look, they got the goals, they got the breaks. They could have had 7, easily, as you said. They missed a few, but I just think that probably in the last couple of weeks there, they've had the chance to work on, I suppose, what we mentioned there, the fact that they've been engaged in the middle third, and you often saw that the ball was flying over the top of that middle third from the half back line, and it was going straight into Seamus and Aaron inside by the D on their own. I mean, the amount of times Cork got caught 2-on-2 inside was scary. And Kieran Joyce tried his best to get back there at times, but I think he was just kind of caught in the mind of coming out onto the half forward line as well.
I think that's the thing about this Limerick side when they are pouring, that if you do go man on man and you leave those boys inside in their own, that they'll cause damage. But if you drop off, if the likes of Hago and Tom Morrissey and them are on form, they'll just shoot from everywhere. It's just, if Limerick play to their best, they're extremely hard to stop.
Look, if Limerick hit top form, look, you can't see anyone turn them over, and I suppose Clare obviously the next day will think that they have the upper hand, and I suppose they're gonna probably think that they have found maybe a way of combating them, in the middle third, and maybe getting the better or the upper hand in certain areas or certain positions. But look, I think Limerick have an improvement to make from the first day they played Clare. The number of wides and even some sloppy play in general. I think that's definitely improved. Ball handling, the ball speed has definitely come up a ton. So I think fellas are back in form as well, and a bit of confidence. And look, no better way to get your confidence back than 40,000+ in the Gaelic grounds, the height of the summer, the heat beating down, and you've come out on top. And saw the great piece from Dennis Walsh there in the Times about the lads sitting down in a circle after they get 2 hours after the match eating their dinner, and in the chairs in the Gaelic grounds. Like, I mean, that's the, like, whatever about the matches, that's the stuff you'd live for as a player. Like, you know, that moment there where you've given everything you can as a panel, as a group, and you're sitting down having a chat, having the crack, and you've won a Munster Championship game. You're looking forward into the summer, into the All-Ireland series, you know. That's the stuff you give your arm to be involved in. Like,
Yeah, they looked like a really tight-knit squad, and that the manner of the win and to get over the line after so much scrutiny should give the side huge confidence, and a reminder for everyone else that, you know, it's not too long ago that we had called them a team they're going to win All-Ireland with ease, and they have won 3 in a row. That they're a dangerous animal to, you know, to rile up like that, and they proved on Sunday just how good they are again.
Yeah, I don't think you win any All-Ireland with ease, though, you know, and like, even over the past couple of years, we were lucky in some games as well, and did get the breaks or got the goals, you know. I just think it's just constantly coming out on top in games is a real skill as well, like, you know, and being thereabouts in the melting pot and knowing how to finish out a game, or knowing what's needed to, where the puck out needs to go, where the bodies need to be for the break, you know, where to get to. You know, to hurl close together as opposed to hurling far apart, and making sure we've numbers there for, even if we do lose a break or a puck out, that we can stop it at source, like, you know, and stuff like that. And they have all that stuff down to fine art at this stage with experience, you know. But look, the games are very close. It's hard to know from here, like, regardless of Munster final results, it's hard to know what to expect for the All-Ireland series. You know, I don't think we've got a great read on Leinster yet or anything like that, and I think it's like the Leinster final might tell you a small bit more, but neither Galway nor Kilkenny have been shooting the lights out either, like, you know. So it's really hard to know what's happening from that side of things. But I think the lads will just be, as Tom Morris said today, you know, they were playing to get into the All-Ireland series, and I suppose everything else worked out as a huge bonus then.
Yeah, Matt, I'll throw it over to you there.
Yeah, Paul, just reflecting on it since it happened, and the number of times before and the lead into the Munster Championship that John Kiely stressed how important or how competitive this year's Munster Championship was going to be. And like, to think that had Cork got a late equaliser, how different the Munster landscape would have looked at this stage. You'd have Cork in the Munster final, and you'd have Tipperary out of the championship. Very, very few would have thought about that.
Yeah, look, as I said, in the games, in championships as a whole, like, you know, like, it's minute, small details, like, and small moments are deciding all these games and all these championships, and you see the score difference between teams is very little between them, like, you know. And like, I like, Cork are out now in 4th place, but have they had a bad Munster campaign? I don't think they have. Like, we could be very easily reading Limerick's results as Cork's results are, like, at the moment, you know, a point here, a point there, a draw, like, you know. So I think Cork will be happy enough with what they've done this year. Obviously bitterly disappointed, I'd say, to be out of the championship, but I think they'll be happy enough with what they've progressed and some of the players they've introduced. And I think probably next year we'll see even more young players coming through from their underage system and their 20s and stuff in the past number of years into their panel and getting game time. They brought in a couple of lads there, Brian Hayes and Paddy Power came on, you know, so they're all big pluses, like, and Mark Coleman to come back as well. So it's like I said, when you win by a point, life is great, and when you lose by a point, it's the end of the world. But like, it's the same for Cork now. They've come 4th and barely got knocked out. Could be in a Munster final by a puck of the ball. Like, so has it been a poor year from? No. Will they be disappointed to be out? They will. And I suppose equally, Tip will probably be counting their blessings, you know, that they managed to get over the line in 3rd place. But I suppose when they reflect on it, they might be happy enough with where they are and kind of work away there quietly over the next couple of weeks, perhaps, you know, and face the first task in Offaly, I think, and in 3 weeks' time. But after that, then you'd never know what way that goes. They might be happy enough with where they've ended up.
Yeah, I suppose in comparison with last year when they failed to win a match, that it's a big improvement for Tipperary. But you just wonder when you see the competitiveness of the Munster Championship this year, and it's probably one of the most competitive Munster Championships we've seen. And like, the 3 counties that came out of Leinster, you could say they ambled through the Leinster Championship to date. And you'd wonder, going into the All-Ireland series, will the Munster Championship have taken too much out of the Munster teams going forward?
Well, to be honest, if I'm honest with you, Matt, I think the team who probably loses the Munster final could be in a bit of bother, you know. On the next day, they would really want to be on the money, have done their recovery right, I suppose, physically and mentally, I suppose, after that, going into that quarter final, because they will be set up for the fall. You know, they've had 6 weeks there of really, really intense hurling. You know, probably huge relief to be either third or in the Munster, or to come out as first or second and into a Munster final. And then I suppose, depending on the result of that, you could have to pick yourself right back up again and face into a team who probably has had a couple of games to fine tune themselves and maybe look at it a different way, like, you know. So I think the Munster finalists could be a bit of a bother this year. I'd say the team who wins the Munster final will be delighted with the break into a semi-final, as opposed to other years where maybe we were talking about the 5 and 6 week break being a huge hindrance to the provincial winners, like in Munster. I think that they'll be delighted with the break and really happy to be in a semi-final and watching the rest of it play out.
Paul, I suppose from a Clare perspective, going into the Munster final, all of last week, they would have been of the mindset that it was a Tipperary Clare Munster final. I suppose the last ones they wanted to see rocked out against them on Munster final day was Limerick.
Yeah, I don't know. Would it be that? I don't know. Is that the angle, maybe, Matt? You know, they probably were expecting maybe if they met Limerick again, it might be way down the line, you know. But I just think probably the last week they were probably preparing for a tip. Probably had been looking at the tip game on Sunday, you know, maybe tuned into that more so than Cork and Limerick in the Gaelic grounds. And then I suppose as the day went on, they were probably having to change over from their Twitter feed to the television feed probably, and keep an eye on what was happening, like, you know. So I think from a mental perspective, I think regardless of who it is, I think knowing or being like 99% certain you're playing one team and having to switch in the space of a couple of hours to facing a different team is a tough task, you know. They probably would have started maybe like doing some analysis on tip even, you know, and maybe would have been really keenly watching the Tip and Waterford game from a backroom team point of view and stuff. And the players even would have probably been keeping an eye on that. And some players won't, some players will, some players will probably at the beach or something, you know, or going for a swim on Sunday and watching none of the matches. But I think regardless of how good you are at switching off, you probably would have been thinking that it was tip and focused in on that for the Munster final. And it probably is a difficult position to be in, to switch it around in the space of a couple of days and know you're facing Limerick again. Probably have to revisit their game in the Gaelic grounds and look at that and what worked well and what they can improve on, and maybe look at Limerick's shot count, which was high even though they had wides. You know, the shot count for Limerick was really high that day, and had they hit over some of those wides, it would have improved. So I suppose it is a difficult mental task, I think, to switch from where they were to where they have to be now in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, Limerick in this particular campaign, I suppose they started off not very impressively, but they've shown demonstrable improvement from game to game, Paul, and there was a big step up last Sunday. There's no doubt about that, not just because we won. Is there far more to go, Dick?
I definitely think there is. Like, there's definitely some areas, even from last Sunday there's definitely some areas of improvement. Like, you know, Cork seemed to get an awful lot of puck outs off short, and I suppose short to the full back line, which, okay, is to be expected and might be a tactic or a ploy, like, but I think also got an awful lot of puck outs to the middle third, to runners, to the midfielders, to the half back line, you know, as well, which is probably something they won't be too happy about. Also on top of that, I think the Cork movement did trouble us a small bit, and I think they'll be looking at maybe how to shore up defensively a small bit more. Like, you know, they definitely won't be happy with conceding 130. That'll be a stick to beat them with over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. But there definitely is improvement, you know, and even there was still, like, I suppose it does come with the weather now, you know, with that heat and I suppose that intensity in that game, like, you're going to have mistakes. But they probably would have liked to cut out maybe a percentage of those mistakes even more and make it probably a small bit more slicker looking, and ball to hand and stuff like that, you know. But I think when the weather is like that, when you're playing 20-something degrees of heat and you're playing intercounty hurling, like, there's going to be mistakes because fellas tire at different times, you know, and it's a real stressful environment for the body. So, you know, things happen at different moments, and I think there's always going to be mistakes, but it's just limiting those, I suppose. Look, it could very easily be the same weather in 2 weeks' time inside the Gaelic grounds again, like.
Yeah, Paul, we couldn't have this conversation with a Bruff man without mentioning your club mate, Sean Finn. Do you think that the Limerick full back line has settled over the last 2 games in his absence? Because, like, you know, in my opinion, we're talking about the best defender in Ireland missing out from Limerick. So, are you happy with the way the thing has settled since he you know, got injured?
Yeah, look, I mean, they've drawn a game and won a game, Matt, like, you know. I suppose, not like when you're talking about defending, I don't think it's defending as in conceding scores. I think it's the whole, I think it's what Sean brings to the group as regards just solidity and I suppose confidence in defence, you know, and communication. Like, you know, that's something that probably has to be replaced more so than his actual on-field presence, like, as regards playing, you know, and getting on the ball. Like, I mean, I'm sure Nicky is missing him as a cornerback and someone to converse with. Like, you know, I'm sure the half-back line are missing his communication out the field, you know, and as well as his colleagues in the full-back line, you know. It's a difficult task for Mike Casey to be in, like, because he probably would have been used to playing full-back over the last number of years and now having to go into the corner, like, you know, and definitely probably, you know, I wouldn't say, like, he's come off from the 2 games, but I don't think he's playing poorly. I think it's probably because he's covering more distance or ground than he has been used to as a full-back, like, if I was to say that. And Richie has done excellently well coming in, and I would say that, you know, Richie, Dan, Mike and Barry are probably going to be rotating as regards positions over the next number of games and in and out, like, you know, and probably being replaced by one or the other of the players at some stage of the game. Like, so I just think it's a matter of replacing Sean, kind of a bit like Moneyball, you know. How can we replace Sean Finn, and I suppose what does he give us? And I'm sure Sean O'Donnell has all that done, to be honest with you, but what does Sean give us and what players do we need to replace him on the field, like, you know. He's a massive loss to Limerick, to be honest with you. As you said, Matt, I fully agree with you there. He's the best defender in the country and has been over the last 6 or 7 years, like, you know. He's just superb. Nothing phases him. He's a real cool, calm, collected presence inside there the whole time. Huge loss to Limerick, huge loss to my own club, Bruff. But, like, I'm sure Sean is contributing in with Limerick as much as he possibly can. They definitely would have found a role for him to fill, which I'm sure he's taken on with both hands, you know, and he'll definitely do the same for ourselves and Bruff as the year moves on as well.
Paul, turning more to your own career, which has been stellar by any benchmark, both with County and with Bruff. Happy days with Limerick, eventually getting the All-Ireland medal you richly deserved. Yeah,
sure. Look, I mean, when I started out as a young fella, if you told me what would be on the mantelpiece when I finished, sure, you'd be delighted. But to me, Matt, the journey was the most important or most valuable memories I have, to be honest with you. I mean, being part of the team in 2013 that kind of maybe finally stemmed the tide as regards silverware, like, you know, was massive for us, and I think massive for the county as well, because the underage had started to come good as well at that time, you know. So those players like Wayne Mack, Gavin, Paddy, 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘭𝘴, David Breen, Steve Walsh, you know, Richie, Tom, all these fellas that were involved in that. I have very, very fond memories of playing with all those lads, and I suppose what they did, and there was a real change of I suppose we went into the era of professionalism back then, you know, as regards to GA and I suppose the attitude and stuff, and Jim and S&C and all those boys were real standard bearers and really drove on the standards. And I think if you were to ask the young lads that, I suppose the likes of, the likes of Richie, Dara, these lads that came into the panel around 15, 16 as well, like, they would have told you that those lads were really driving the standards as regards behaviour and trainings and how you looked after yourself and all like that. And I think that mindset was there before the lads got there, in a sense. And obviously the boys that come from the academy side of things then, which has started all that work as well at underage, really drove on from there. Like, but look, a lot of those lads that maybe did end up being part of 2018 were real driving factors as regards to how Limerick was moving on from there. I mean, 13 and 14 we had really good years. Look, 15 and 16, yeah, they weren't great, but I think that we were going through a huge transition phase at that stage. A lot of older players were starting to slip away and retire, and I suppose all those young fellas then had started to come through, but all those lads that were there before that were real driving factors as to where we've ended up today, you know, and they all helped turn the cogs in the wheel at some point, you know.
Standout memories, obviously winning the All-Ireland was a highlight, but the other memories, obviously 2013 was a big one.
Yeah, 2013 was a big one. Obviously your first year in 2009 was playing in those games and making your debut and stuff is lovely, you know. A real standout game for me, strange, I don't know why, but like the game actually in 2011, the league final, the 1B final in Ennis, is actually a game that really stands out in my mind as regards a game I really enjoyed. We got over the line that night, you know, and it was just an incredible atmosphere. That's a game that really stands out to me in my mind the whole time. And to be honest with you, Matt, other than that, I think the 2018 league, the day above in Galway and Salt Hill, is one that really, really stands out to me. Just a real sense of just satisfaction and knowing that, you know, things were going to be okay. We got out of 1B. You know, I was heading towards the end of my career, I would say, you know, like I was heading towards my 30s, like at that stage, and knowing that you're out of 1B and what was coming behind were just such quality, like, and that you were going to be in 1A and you were going to be definitely having a cut off the Munster and All Ireland that year in the round robin, like, and that's a real standout memory for me. Just a real sense of satisfaction of having got out of 1B and into 1A finally, like. And I know that things have changed since then now, and it's a different system, but I think winning that game and having that monkey off the back was a massive thing as well.
Talk to us about Bruff, Paul. Very, very near in 2022, very close in the county final against the team that ultimately went on to win the Munster and All Ireland series.
Yeah, Matt. Look, I suppose overall, I suppose clubs are funny things, you know. They come in waves, really. Like we were having a conversation last Tuesday night above the field. We had 34, 35 players training above in Bruff. Now, I said to Ray Horrigan, our manager, I said, lock the gate and don't let him out till October, right? But it's just a funny thing that, like, I had a conversation then with Jason Hayes, and he said to me, do you remember the day we played championship above in Kilmallock and we had 17 players on the field, or on the panel, in senior championship now at that time, when we had John Anthony Moran was a sub keeper and Mike Weeks was a sub as an outfield player. So, like, it's just great to have such numbers coming through in the last number of years. The work that's going on in the club at the moment is really, really positive to see. We're headed by Mike Kiley there, our chairman, and he's doing a great job. And, like, Matt, just small things, like, I suppose we've a lady there, Claire Moran, driving the facilities side of stuff, like, and the work she's doing and how well the field looks, how well all the facilities look, how clean everything is, like, you know. They've put an amount of money into our old dressing rooms there in Bruff. They've knocked the wall and made it into a gym for the players now in the last number of weeks, you know, and spent a couple of €1,000 on that for the club, like, and it's just a real focal point for the community now at the moment, which is positive to see. There's kids up there every evening inside the Astro, the field, you know, and playing sports, whatever it is, soccer, football, hurling, you know. I suppose last year was disappointing, not maybe to get over the line in the final, but I don't think we'd have any complaints. I think the better team beat us on the day. And we were a small bit off, and they were rightly on the money on the day. And I think that it's just great to see the 19s winning last year, the juniors winning, and just a real positive energy around the club. And I suppose especially just numbers at the field for training, and loads of young fellas there for training, like, and just interested in the club, not only interested in playing, but actually interested in being a part of the club and pushing it on from off the field as well, like, you know.
Yeah. The under-19 final was one of the great finals of last year, Paul.
Yeah, it was very enjoyable game. Yeah, it was a really enjoyable game. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it, yeah. Just great bunch of lads. Yeah, just a great bunch of lads, to be honest with you. Really well coached and managed, and just a bit of bite about them as well, like, bit of physicality and bite about them, and well able for the hard stuff as well as the hurling, like, you know. And just great to see that kind of crew coming along now to backbone the club for the number of years to come, you know. And probably maybe the best crew to come out since my own group came through in 2007 or so as minors and stuff. So it's really good to see 8 or 9 or 10 lads there that you know are going to hurl away with the club for the number of years, like.
Roger Mulqueen would kill me if I didn't mention to you about the junior bees.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's I suppose it's an important part of any club is to have a junior team going well and have an outlet for every player to be able to play. They've done a good job this year. They've moved up to junior A, and I think they're going to try and enter a junior B team as well. So, like, to have 3 adult teams in the club will be an incredible achievement. How it'll go, I don't know, Matt. You know, like, on paper the players are there, but, like, it's a different scenario getting lads to the field and stuff like that. But, you know, they're going to try it, which is just another, I suppose, insight into, I suppose, the mentality of the club at the moment, and I suppose what the executive is bringing to it, and I suppose driving standards, you know. And it'd be remiss of me now not to mention the underage as well, led by Fran Dwyer and Mike Weeks and you know, a couple more there, Nicola Mulcahy and Jason Hayes and stuff, are driving things there in the club as well from that point of view. And just the underage has great numbers, very well organised, and trainings and stuff like that, and matches and everything. And just it's good to see at the moment, you know. The school going well today. They're in a final against Kilmallock there in a couple of minutes above in the field in Bruff, like, so. You know, things are moving forward nicely around the place. Look, whether it'll eventually lead to silverware or anything like that, I think is secondary as to how the club is actually running. And I suppose people have been happy and it being a nice focal point to the community, you know.
That's it for me. Thanks very much, Paul.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Paul. There, and it's great to see a club like Bruff doing so much work, good work underage, and you're reaping the rewards of it. And it's brilliant, obviously, to talk Limerick with you, and long may the success continue. But Paul, thanks very much for your time. We'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summer, and it'll be a long, fruitful one for Limerick and Bruff. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks a million for having me. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul.